morning friends. Today we are going to discuss one new chapter in biology, cell, the basic unit of life. So what is the cell and what is the structure of the cell? How we can observe the cell under the microscope and how can we observe about the structure of the cell. These are the things we are going to discuss in this chapter detailedly. Here the cell, all the living organisms which are present in our surrounding, all are made up of cells. Even the small plants, about the plants means even the small plant, phytoplankton to the largest tree, seaweed tree, redwood tree, these all the trees mean redwood tree, even the small plant, the phytoplankton to the largest tree, seaweed tree, from all the plants, otherwise trees, which are made up of cells. Maybe the size will be varying, but these all the organisms are made up of cells. About the animals also the same thing, the elephant will be there and the giraffe will be there, like that different varieties. Even the small animal, that is a zooplankton, to the largest animals, blue whale, this all varying in size, but all the organism they will be made up of the cell. For example, the cell will be there, from the cell the number of cells will be uniting together and forming the tissues. From the tissues, the organs are forming. From the organs, organ systems are forming. From the organs, organ systems are forming. From the organ system, organisms are forming. Is it clear? So from this table, you can understand the basic unit. When the organisms are forming, the basic unit is cell. So that's the reason the cell is known as the basic unit of life. Any of the organisms are present, they will all are made up of the cell. Understood? That's the reason the cell is known as the basic unit of life. So we know the organism which are present in our surrounding. They are mainly three types will be there: microorganisms, plants and animals. So we know about these all the things, but in 350 years before, we don't have the idea about microorganisms. We don't have the idea about microorganisms. Why means that time there is no microscope. We required for observing the microorganism. We required the microscope. Microscope is a device which will be helping to observe, otherwise magnify the tiny objects. To magnify the tiny objects or the small organisms, small things, we required the microscope. That time we don't have the microscope. That's the reason the peoples which are living in that time, they are believing that, otherwise they are believing that they have the organisms are present in surrounding, that is only the plants and animals, or otherwise which are seeing with our naked eyes, such organisms only present. Is it clear? So later some scientists, one of the scientists or some scientists which are contributed some of the inventions to the biology or the cytology for the development of cells. In that, two important scientists are there. First one is the Antony von Leeuwenhoek. They are the important scientists who are contributed for the cell biology. Antony von Leeuwenhoek and Robert Hooke. They are the important scientists who are contributed for the cytology. Antony von Leeuwenhoek, he contributed otherwise he observed the living cell in first time. And he is the person who observed the cell in first time. Is it clear? He is the person. Robert Hooke is the scientist. He observed the cell, but he observed the dead cell only. The Robert Hooke, he observed the cell in first time, but it is the dead cell. Anthony von Leeuwenhoek, he is the person he observed the living cell first time. Is it clear now? So, who are the two important scientists which are contributed their inventions preciously to the cytology, otherwise cell biology. They are the Anthony von Leeuwenhoek and the another scientist Robert Hooke. So about the cell, I already told it is the basic unit of life, and who invented, otherwise who discovered the cell in first time, that is the person who named as the Robert Hooke. He is the scientist who observed the cell in first time, and he observed the cell in the year of 1665. He is the person he observed the cell in first time. And about the cell will be there, they having the nucleus will be present. So for the cell will be there. The cell, for the invention of the cell, we require the microscope. By the microscope, we will be helping for study of the internal structure of the cell. By the help of the microscope, will be helping for the study the internal structure of the cell. I already told microscope is helping to observing the tiny particles or the minute things, that device will be known as the microscope. So here the microscope is very much important to observe the tiny things, otherwise to observe the cells. Is it clear now? These are about the introduction of the cell, and next we can discuss who discovered the cell and discovery of the cell. The Robert Hooke, he discovered the cell in 1665, and he observed the cell. He removed some bark cell. I told before, he observed the cell, that is the dead cell. So in the outer covering of the tree, you can see the bark cell, otherwise the epithelial cells will be present. He found that some of the part from the bark of the tree, and he observed under microscope. And one more thing is there, I already told, in this year in this time there is no microscopes are present available. So he observed the cell under a single magnifying device he invented by himself. He only developed one of the microscope. It is a single cell, only single lens are present. Single lensed magnifying device he used. In presently the microscope which are using, this compound microscope and all, they have two lenses are available. But here what the microscope, otherwise the magnifying device which the Robert Hooke is used. In here the lens, otherwise the device which the Robert Hooke is used, the bark of the cell, bark cell, otherwise the epithelial cells which he collected, he placed on the slide and he observed under the microscope. While the Robert Hooke, he collecting some epithelial cells from the plant, and he observed under the microscope, otherwise the simple magnifying device, he found that by observing, he found some of the small cavity. Small room-like structures are observed under the microscope. While he observing, he found some tree-like structure, otherwise some small room-like structures are observing under the microscope. So he found some like a honeycomb, some small room-like structure. So that's the reason he named that room-like structure as the cell. The cell is nothing but, the meaning of cell is, that is the little room. So that small room which he founded under the microscope, otherwise simple magnifying device, he named that is the cell. But here is the person discovered the cell first time. The who discovered the cell, that is the Robert Hooke in 1665. He named as the cell. Okay, but he found that is the dead cell. One another scientist named as Antony von Leeuwenhoek. Antony von Leeuwenhoek. He is the person found the first time the living cell, and when he observed under the device which he developed, he found some moving particles, and some of the moving particles he observed, and he named that as the animalcules, that is the animalcules, and later it will be named as the bacteria. Clear? So the two scientists, important scientists which are contributed to the cell biology. First one is the Robert Hooke, and second one Antony von Leeuwenhoek. The Robert Hooke, he discovered the cell in first time. Antony von Leeuwenhoek, he observed the living cell in first time. Is it clear now? Now we can going to discuss another topic, observation of cell under the microscope.